Let's paint an ocean landscape in watercolor. Start by taping down your paper to a surface. Since I'm painting on my watercolor calendar for June, I'm going to cover that up with a piece of paper, and we'll start by mixing up a cool blue for the sky. I'm using my Cerulean blue and adding lots of water so we can get a nice light wash down for the sky. Start making horizontal strokes at the top of the page. As you move down, you can add water to your brush, and we're just going to get a very light wash about halfway down the paper so that we have a base background for our sky. While that dries, we will mix up some colors for our ocean. I'm starting with a warm yellow. This is my cadmium yellow, and I'm adding a warm blue so that we can get a little bit of a neutral color. And we're going for kind of a dusty blue here. So I'm going to keep adding some blue, which is my Indanthrene blue, or however you say that. But you can see here that we're getting a nice neutral kind of dusty blue by mixing a warm blue with a warm yellow. So now we've got a nice blue ocean color here, and we want to also mix up a green. So I'm going to take that same warm blue, and now I'm going to add an even warmer yellow. I'm going to go with my Winsor orange and go ahead and mix that up. We want to have a little more yellow this time so that we have a nice kind of ocean green. So this is the color you're looking for, and then just so we have some options, I'm going to go ahead and mix those two in the middle so we have three colors. Now, starting with your horizontal line at the horizon, you're just going to start putting in some blue, and really there's no rhyme or reason to this. We're just going to be adding, kind of wet on wet different colors, and also adding in clean water like I did just there. So a stripe of blue, some clean water. Now I'll add a little green. We just want to get the paint to kind of flow around the paper in an ocean-esque feel. And so I'm just going to kind of go back and forth between adding in some horizontal strokes of the blue, some clean water, and even some of that green. And think about the ocean having lots of different shades here, and then where waves might be crashing in, you're going to have some lighter values, even some whites. So at this point, you can also go ahead and rinse off your brush completely, dry it, and then use the brush with some heavy pressure to lift out some of these lighter areas, just to give some dimension to what, we would see as waves out there. I also have, if you don't have this, no worries, but this is the P.H. Martin liquid watercolor. So I'm just going to put some white on my palette. I'm going to add some water to this, and oftentimes we'll drip some clean water on to our paintings to get some interesting effects. And so I thought it would be interesting with this painting to do that by mixing up some white watercolor as well. Even though we don't use it often, it can be helpful in certain situations, and just going to help give us a little bit more texture here. Now, as I said, there's no real rhyme or reason to this. It's not meant to be perfect. It's an ocean. So I'm just going to kind of keep going, and I'm not really drying my layers in between. I'm just going to keep going wet on wet, dropping in different colors in different places, starting to think about how to make this look more like waves. And so one thing that will help you is to make your lines more broad and further apart in the foreground, and then toward the back, you're going to want those lines to be a little bit thinner and closer together to show some distance. Now, I'm noticing my horizon line isn't quite horizontal, so I'm just going to pull out my ruler here and just paint up right up to that line so I can get a nice horizon line here. And we're just going to keep layering on these colors. And it does help to start, your horizon line should be darker. That'll help give some perspective. But really just have fun, play here, add some of these colors back and forth until you are happy with your ocean. So I'm also starting to think here about where, I have some of these lighter areas. I'm trying to put a little bit of a darker color right on top. So that'll help kind of give the idea that these could be like waves crashing in, and get it to feel a little bit more like an ocean. So anywhere I've got those lights, I'm just kind of putting a little bit of dark in there. Make sure you just go back and forth between your green, let them mix together. One of the really fun things about watercolor is sometimes certain paintings just let watercolor be watercolor and do some really beautiful things. I'm even adding, clean water here and there, just, more than I would in a normal painting, just to give it some texture. Once you get toward the bottom, we're going to start thinking about a shoreline. So I've just actually grabbed some of my yellow ochre, and I'm going to mix it here right on my palette with that blue that we already made. We're just going to start adding that toward the bottom. Again, we want these, colors to mix and blend. And the idea is that this ocean waves are coming in onto the shore, and you might see some mixed in with the water, but just go ahead and add some of that there. And we're also going to mix that with a little bit on the page with what we have down. And I'm going to make this look like the land is a little bit of an angle. So again, not being very precise here at all, just getting that color down so we're giving the impression that there's a shoreline. And so we'll keep adding different variations of color and lightness and darkness of paint until we feel happy with it. So have fun with this. Keep going until you like it. You can always add in more and more color. If you feel things are getting too dark, you can always lift. And of course, I love texture, and I think this is a great painting to get lots of texture. So seeing the paint mixing on the page, some clean water, and even a paper towel. So I like to take a small piece, fold it up, maybe crumple it up a little bit so you don't get too perfect of a shape, but just blot that across your painting. Just like when we were doing our lines, think about these being wider strokes or wider marks that are further apart on the bottom, and then smaller ones that are closer together toward your background. And that will help give some texture to the painting and also give a little bit more of perspective. So having the darks toward the top and having those line perspectives make for a beautiful ocean scene. And of course, I love texture, so I'm actually going to add a little bit more texture to the sky here. I added just a little bit of clean water to the top of the page, adding in a little bit of my blue paint, and even dropping in more clean water and just kind of moving that around a little bit to give it, texture of maybe like a bit of a cloudy sky. And we can also, of course, use our paper towel to blot out some, clouds or additional texture. I will say with this step, if your ocean is still wet, be careful not to get too close with the water so you don't mess up what you've already done. But I'll just blot out a few lighter areas here to make for a nice textured sky to match our textured ocean. I'll fast forward here with my heat tool to dry it completely before removing the tape. Of course, I have to uncover my calendar here, and honestly, this was a really fun and easy way to make a beautiful ocean landscape. I hope you enjoyed the video, and don't forget to subscribe for more.